Calling the case of the People versus King George soldiers. Are both sides ready?
Ready for the people, Your Honor.
Ready for the defense, Your Honor.
Right. Would you please swear in the jury?
Will the jury please stand and raise your right hand? Do each of you swear that you will fairly try the case before this court and that you will return a true verdict according to the evidence and the instructions of the court, so help you God? Please stand. Please be seated.
All right, the prosecution team may begin with their opening statement.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we have before us the harrowing case of the Boston Massacre. Evidence will show that on the dark day of March 5th, 1770, 8 British soldiers, armed with loaded muskets and rifles, shot into an unarmed American crowd, killing 5 and wounding 7 others. You will hear eyewitness accounts from 2 witnesses, Benjamin Burdick and Robert Goddard, who were both at the scene, one of whom was harassed by a British officer. I intend to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the defendants, the British soldiers, acted and are guilty of heinous acts of murder. I will prove that the defendant acted in a way that caused the death of another, that the defendant acted with malice, and that the defendant acted without a justifiable reason. After you've seen and heard the evidence in this case, I will ask you to return the only fair verdict, guilty. Thank you.
The defense may start with their opening statement.
Your Honor and ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my client is presumed innocent until proven guilty. You will come to know that King George III's soldiers were simply just obeying orders and defending themselves as they are being attacked by a belligerent mob of angry American colonists. Before this, a redcoat was looking for a job, trying to find some extra change, when a group of American colonists came towards him in a taunting manner. A few of the redcoats and soldiers came over to defend the wretched soldier. As the matter was about to dissolve, one of the ill-tempered Americans bashed one of the redcoats with a club, causing him to fire, not intentionally out of anger, but out of self-defense. Now, is this murder or an act of one defending himself? My client, William Wems, will help you know that it was an act of self-defense. My other client, Captain Thomas Preston, will show that he told his men to hold their fire. But as he was ordering his men to hold their fire, one of the Americans armed one of the British soldiers, causing him to be fatally wounded. You will find copious evidence and see the truth that my clients are not guilty.
Thank you. The prosecution may call its first witness.
The people call Benjamin Burdick.
Please stand. Right here. Raise your right hand. Do you promise that the testimony you give shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. You may be seated. Please spell your first and last name.
Benjamin Burdick, B-U-R-D-I-C-K.
Where were you on the night of March 5th, 1770?
I was on King Street in Boston.
What did you see? Did you speak to anyone or did anyone speak to you?
I saw a group of townspeople. There was also an unusual amount of redcoats. I asked a redcoat if his gun was loaded. He said yes. I asked him if he would fire, and he said yes, by the eternal God. Then he pushed his bayonet at me.
What did you do after this encounter?
I went home and got my sword.
Did the soldier act out of malice or did you do anything to provoke him?
No, all I did was ask him questions. He seemed to have acted out of malice. He had no reason to push his bayonet at me like that.
Your Honor, at this time I would like to have this sword submitted into evidence as People's Exhibit Number 1.
Thank you.
As you can see, this sword has no dents or marks of blood on it. It shows that Benjamin Burdick did not provoke the soldier in any way or harm any of the British soldiers, yet the soldier attacked him by pushing a bayonet. This not only proves innocence on the part of one man in the crowd, but it also shows that the British were volatile, ready for violence even without serious incitation. Did anything else happen on the night of March 5th, 1770?
I heard the word fire and took it to be a command. The Redcoats fired on the Royal Exchange Street. There were about 50 townspeople.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Does the defense have any questions for this witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Burdick, do you consider yourself a loyalist or a patriot?
Patriot.
Do you dislike or dislike British soldiers as a whole?
I dislike them.
How do you feel about the quartering act?
I don't like it.
You saw sticks and other weapons being used to attack the soldiers, correct?
Yes.
Do you know for sure who said fire?
Yeah, I heard it from behind the soldiers.
Why were you present during the time of action?
I was just walking along. I was minding my own business.
Did you witness people being attacked by the Americans? What were you going to use your sword for, and did you use it at any time during the time of action?
No, I was just going to use it for self-defense if any other Redcoats attacked.
Were you the only person to hold or use weapons? If so, what were those weapons and who was using them?
There was no guns, but there were sticks and snowballs.
Do you think that what the mob was doing is right or wrong?
I think it is right. The British shouldn't send soldiers to live here in Boston.
I have no further questions.
The prosecution may call a second witness.
The people call Robert Boston.
Right, stand. Raise your right hand. Do you promise that the testimony you shall give shall be nothing but the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Is it true that you were present in the crowd in Boston on March 5th, 1770, when 5 unarmed Americans were murdered and 7 others were wounded by British soldiers?
Yes.
Had the British soldiers ever treated you or others near you unkindly before?
Yes.
Would you say that on the night of March 5th that the British soldiers did treat you and others near you unkindly? Please give details.
They shot at innocent people.
Would you say, what did you hear the captain tell a group of ignorant boys on the night of March 5th? Did they heed his commands?
He told them to go home, but they didn't listen and continued to throw snowballs at him. But it was obviously harmless.
You mentioned how close you were to this captain. Is he in this room? Could you point him out?
He's over there.
You have affirmed that the captain commanded his men to form a half moon. What did you understand this formation to signify?
That they were ready to shoot at the people.
Did you hear the captain give the command to fire?
Yes.
Could you tell the court what he said?
He said, darn, you'll fire, that I'll be treated this way.
What action did the soldiers take upon the captain's command?
That
What action did the soldiers take upon the captain's command?
that they were supposed to fire at innocent people.
As a member of the crowd, please tell how many in the crowd were armed with firearms other than the British soldiers.
None.
While the captain did not directly shoot anyone upon his command, the British soldiers shot into the crowd, making Captain Preston guilty of what occurred. Could you please clearly state what you witnessed that night?
I witnessed 5 people getting killed and 7 getting injured.
Your Honor, I would like to have this bullet marked as the People's Exhibit number 2.
This bullet shell shows that the British soldiers did indeed shoot into the crowd on the night of March 5th, 1770. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Does the defense have any questions for this witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Goddard, do you consider yourself a loyalist or a patriot?
Patriot.
How do you feel about the coroner here?
I don't like it.
Why were you present during the time of action?
Because I was there minding my own business.
Were the colonists only throwing snowballs or were they throwing other things also?
They were throwing snowballs and sticks.
Were the colonists taunting the British soldiers? If so, what were they saying?
Yes, but I don't remember what they said.
What did you do during the time of action?
I didn't fight back. I was too afraid to fight.
Do you think that what the mob was doing is right or wrong?
I think it is right because the British soldiers are oppressing us.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Step down. Does the defense have any witnesses?
Yes.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the defendants have a right not to defend themselves and that you can't hold it against them if they choose so. Are you ready, defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Let me call your first witness.
Captain Thomas Preston.
All right, please stand, raise your right hand. Do you promise that the testimony you shall give in this case before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, please state your first and last name.
Thomas Preston, P-R-E-S-T-O-N.
All right.
What did you do when you first arrived at the scene?
I checked the wounded officers when I called for help.
Were the Americans shouting threats before this happened?
Yes, I believe they were.
Is it true that you told your men to hold their fire?
Yes, that is true.
Did your soldier fire intentionally out of anger?
No,
Why?
because of self-defense.
What weapons were the Americans armed with?
They were armed with sticks, stones, and snowballs and clubs.
Was your firearm in your hands before the Americans attacked?
Yes, I always hold it with me when I am on duty.
Your Honor, I would like to have this club marked as Defense Exhibit Number 2. As you can see, the angry American colonists hit one of the British soldiers on the back and caused him to bleed. You can also see his bloody fingerprints right here as he was bashing the poor redcoat soldier. No further questions.
Does the prosecution have any questions for this witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Were any of your men seriously hurt?
Here.
Were any of your men seriously hurt?
No.
Were any of the townsmen in the opposing crowd armed with firearms?
No.
Would you say that your soldiers with firearms had a large ability to kill the opposing crowd?
Yes, but they only did it out of self-defense.
What words were the mobsters shouting or taunting you with?
They were calling us scoundrel, lobsters,
Did the mobsters harm you in any way?
Yes.
Robert Goddard says that you gave the command to fire. Do you recall saying anything that was or could be taken as you giving the command to fire?
I told the men to hold their fire.
Your Honor, at this time, I would like to have this picture marked as People's Exhibit number 3 and ask that it be admitted as evidence. As you can see, this picture clearly portraits the British soldiers firing at an innocent crowd. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Does the defense have any questions for this witness?
The same witness.
Oh, sorry. That's right. Does the defense have another witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
Wait, I call. Who's your witness?
William Blackburn.
Stand up. Raise your right hand. Do you promise that the testimony you give shall be the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and spell your last name.
William Wems, W-E-M-M-S.
Where were you during the time of action on March 5th of 1770?
I was at the custom house because I heard there was trouble.
Did the American rioters run towards you, or did you run towards them first? Why?
They ran toward us because they were angry.
Were they armed?
Yes, they were armed with clubs, sticks, snow, and ice.
Did they throw any of these things at you?
Yes, we thought that I was going to die.
Is it true that you fired your weapon into this mud?
Yes.
Did you fire into the angry American mob out of malice or intent to rob?
I fired because I was following orders.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Does the prosecution have any questions for this witness?
I do, Your Honor. How did you know that Captain Preston yelled fire? Did you recognize her voice or hear her speak?
Yes.
Didn't the captain tell you not to load your weapons unless necessary?
Yes.
Why did you load them in?
Because he yelled it, so I followed orders.
Would you have shot at the people if your captain didn't tell you to?
No.
Did you fire at the Americans knowing that you could kill them?
No.
Did you fire your weapon?
Yes.
So if you shoot your gun at the people, you know that there's possibility that you kill somebody. So you shot your gun at a defenseless crowd that was only armed with sticks and snowballs. Thank you. Any further questions?
All right, there's no further witnesses. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm going to read to you the law that you must follow in deciding this case. To prove the crime charged against the defendants, the prosecution must prove three things to you. First and foremost, a defendant must have acted in a way that caused the death of another person. Secondly, the prosecutor must show that the defendant acted with malice. Lastly, a prosecutor must prove that the defendant acted with a justifiable reason. If each of you believes that the prosecution proved all three things beyond a reasonable doubt, then you should find the defendant guilty. But if you believe the prosecution did not prove any one of these things beyond a reasonable doubt, then you must find the defendant not guilty. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt does not mean all beyond all reasonable doubt. It means that you must consider all the evidence and that you are very sure that a charge is true. Are you ready for the final arguments?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. You may begin.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have heard an honest and true account from two eyewitnesses present on the night of March 5th, 1770. Both have affirmed that 5 unarmed American patriots were murdered and 7 others were wounded by British soldiers when they fired into a crowd upon the orders of Captain Thomas Preston. We have proven beyond a doubt that the actions of the defendants, Captain Thomas Preston and his soldiers, were purely out of malice, were given without a justifiable reason, and directly caused the death and injuries of your fellow Americans. Captain Thomas Preston and his men are guilty of murder. Is it right for us to cower under this British rule of tyranny, or will you deliver the only reasonable verdict, that Captain Thomas Preston and his soldiers are guilty of murder? Thank you.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution has not proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the British soldiers committed murder. Yes, a British soldier fired his firearm and caused much confusion and chaos. However, he did it out of self-defense rather than out of malicious intent. He clearly held his fire until the angry colonists began to attack the soldiers with sticks, stones, and other weapons. When the British soldiers fired, it was when he was brutally hit on the head by an American colonist, and he misheard Captain Thomas Preston's command, which was to hold their fire. We can clearly see that the British soldiers did not act out of malice. Instead, they reacted to the vicious attack of the American colonists by instinctively reaching toward their weapons to defend themselves. Thus, we can see that Captain Preston and his men are innocent.
Thank you, prosecution team and defendant team. The next step in the trial is when a jury decides whether the defendant is guilty or not guilty. Remember, not guilty is not the same thing as innocent. If all 3 jurors are unanimous in their decision, this is the jury's verdict. We will have you leave the room right now and give you a minute to reach the verdict. The foreman will come back and give us their decision. All right. Will the jury foreperson please stand? Has the jury reached a unanimous decision?
Yes.
What is the decision?
The jury, after much deliberation, has found the defendant not guilty of murder.
All right. Thank you. So the court will be adjourned. All right. Okay, so